Few sports demand so much. Few athletes can handle it. Sprint full speed, launching into the air, twisting, somersaulting, stopping on a dime. Swing between a pair of uneven bars, keeping your body in a straight line, and then release, flipping multiple times on the way to a perfect landing. Have the courage and balance to dance and tumble on an unforgiving 4-inch wide, 4-foot high beam and make it look easy. Then perform with style and power on the floor, combining graceful movements to music, along with tumbling that simply defies gravity. Do all that while coping with the enormous pressure of a team that needs you to approach perfection. Do all that and earn the NCAA Team Championship title. Backstage a few minutes ago, the Florida Gators, the defending two-time NCAA co-champions, and the Oklahoma Sooners. They shared the titles with the Florida Gators last year. They are both poised to try to win it again here in 2015. Welcome to the Fort Worth Convention Center for ESPN's coverage of the 2015 NCAA Women's Gymnastics Championship, presented by Northwestern Mutual. Enthusiastic fans on hand for today's Super 16 finals at the Fort Worth Convention Center here in Fort Worth, Texas. Hi everyone, I'm Mark Connor, and I'm happy as always to be joined by Kathy Johnson-Clark. And we followed this entire gymnastics season going back to January, and it all comes down to this tonight. Now 12 teams made it here to Fort Worth, but just the top 6 qualified to the Super 6 finals, which is what we're about to see. In qualifying, there were some predictable results and some surprises.
I am still shell-shocked by what happened in the semifinals, particularly over at the balance beam, which can always be a fickle event, but it proved to be completely unforgiving to LSU, one of the favorites coming into the competition after 3 falls from this devilish apparatus. It made it just mathematically impossible for them to qualify to these finals.
Now, predictable results involved Oklahoma and Florida. The defending co-champs, they looked both ready to try to win this thing again.
I hate to make it all about balance beam, but based on what we saw during both semifinals, if I don't, it becomes the elephant in the room instead of the 800-pound gorilla, which it is. One of these teams has got to tame the beast and just send it out of the arena in order to win this competition. Florida has to start on beam, and that could be advantageous. They could put a lot of pressure on all the other teams. Oklahoma has to end on the beam. Somebody has to do it, and they're going to be pushed by the underdog teams who are quite inspired by the opportunity.
There is Oklahoma's coach, KJ Kindler, in her 9th season at OU. They've had an undefeated season, hoping to cap it off with an NCAA team title today. There will be 6 rotations, 4 teams competing simultaneously. In this first rotation, Alabama on the vault, Auburn on the bars, Florida on the beam, Stanford will be on the floor.
Doing what we love can be painful.
Remember, Oklahoma and Utah are on bye, so they sit out the first rotation, and there is KJ Kindler making plans on the sidelines. Let's take a look at how Oklahoma is planning for success, brought to you by Northwestern Mutual. For more, let's go down to Amanda Pflugrad.
I spoke to Oklahoma head coach KJ Kindler on what her team can build off of heading into the Super 6, and she said right now the plan is to continue to stick the landings. They did that so well in the semifinals. She said she also wants her team to focus on excellence and not perfection. With excellence, it's just more of a natural confidence. And finally, she wants her team to rise to the occasion and perform all out to their potential.
And the first performer we're going to see today in the Super 6 finals is Bree Guy from Auburn, and what an inspiring story this young lady is. 14 months ago, she tore both Achilles tendons in a disastrous tumbling run, and she is back, had to teach herself to walk again, and she has been the heart and the soul and the inspiration of this incredible team.
And she made her emotional comeback on this event in their first meet of the season, and started them out extremely well in semis where they held their own.
It's a thrill to have Auburn in the final. Many of us expected to see LSU here, but the other Tigers are competing today, the Auburn Tigers, and what a season they have had.
And what a start Bree Guy just got them off to with a very solid bar routine.
Their first Super 6 final in 22 years. The last time they did it, they took 5th place back in '93. Okay, the top 3 teams from each semifinal session advanced into today's Super 6. Each team apparatus rotation includes 2 byes. 4 judges on each event. The top and bottom scores will be dropped. The middle 2 are averaged. And like always, 6 gymnasts will perform on each event. Just the top 5 scores count towards their team total. This is junior Carly Sims for Alabama. She grew up in Birmingham.
Oh, a nice vault, but unfortunately she landed with her chest down. This was a great event for Alabama in the semifinals. They came up with so many stuck landings. I think she was thinking a little too hard on that landing. Didn't quite get the shape first in the air. Didn't quite get the block she needed. She managed to stick the landing, but they'll take a little deduction for that piking down.
Typically Alabama very dynamic and explosive on the vault. This is a 4-ring circus, so 4 events going simultaneously. We go over to the floor now for Stanford's Christina Vakulik. She's the senior out of Whitby, Ontario. She was a member of the Canadian Olympic team in 2012. And she's one of 5 seniors on the Stanford Cardinal program. It's a great thrill to see them in the Super 6 finals. They missed it the last 2 years. They're really peaking at the right time in the season.
Bart, they begin this competition on their 2 weakest events, floor and vault.
Oh no!
Gorgeous height, but unfortunately had no control on the landing. Bounced out, huge deduction.
They came into these championships only ranked 11th as a team. Did not have a great regular season, but seemed to be getting their act together here towards the end.
Missed the timing in between those 2 elements. Didn't quite get the block she needed.
This is a team that is spectacular on the beam and the bars, and if they're going to be a contender today, they're going to have to hit well on the events where they're weaker, which is floor and vault.
Their first performer, Sammy Shapiro, scored a 9.825. They only got into the 9.9 with 1 floor routine during the semis. They really have to get sharp here.
Vakulik is a 3-time All-American. She missed the first 4 meets of the season with illness. Good to have her back in All-America form.
A little bit better landing on that pike double back, but slightly forward and chest down. Got a few deductions in this routine.
To the vault now for Alabama. This is Caitlin Clark. Let's update you on their scores over there so far. The high score has been Kayla Williams' 9.9. And the 2 big vaulters, Clark and Beers, will wrap it up for the Crimson Tide on one of their finest events.
Caitlin has great potential on this event, often comes up with a stick. Not quite a perfectly stuck landing, but a very, very solid vault. Just a tiny deduction on that little hop.
And you can always expect a lot of enthusiasm from the All-American from California. She's a senior.
She brings so much enthusiasm into the competition. Wanted to get this landing, couldn't quite come up with it.
And there will be one final vaulter for the Crimson Tide. That will be Lauren Beers. Waiting for the score for Clark, and it's in. It's a 9.875. Solid scores. The lowest score for Alabama so far on vault is a 9.825, and that brings up Lauren Beers, and boy, she can fly.
And she had her teammates urging her on. Now in the semis, they played it a little safe through fulls instead of 1.5. She's capable of a 1.5 twist. We'll see if she throws it here. A 1.5 twist adds a half twist to it. You land facing away from the table, a little harder to stick. So she did the full, not the 1.5 twist, and it paid off. She got that perfect landing. Well done.
I think that's a good strategy for Dana Duckworth there, because I don't think the 1.5s get paid as well as they should.
I agree with you, and she was so tight in the form, gave them no reason to pick up that pen and take a deduction. Good for her.
And the score is in 9-9-5 for Lauren Beers, a career high here in the first rotation.
Taking a trip in the next 12 months, airlines are...
Action continues here in the first of 6 rotations at the Super 6 finals. Bridget Sloan on the beam now for Florida. And as you mentioned, Kathy, at the top of the show, this is a critical event for all the teams, but particularly for Florida to start off well.
In the semis, they were good enough, but far from great. They are already off to a much better start with 3 9.85s. Ooh, just a little bit of a correction on that aerial walkover before she went into the back handspring.
Sloan has had a hot and cold season. She started off with a perfect 10, the first vault of the year for her, and then later on finished up that meet with a severely sprained ankle, which has really inhibited her progress through the season. But here, finally, at the end of the season, she's getting it all back together.
And she is really getting it together on this event. Just that one little balance check between the aerial walkover and the back handspring. Solid as can be. Since then, double twist. Oh, that is not something you typically see Bridget do on the landing of that double twist. Didn't quite get the shape in the air to go for the stick, but a very, very fine routine.
I like what Rhonda Fain says about Bridget Sloan. As goes Bridget Sloan, so does the fate of the Florida Gators. She really is the heart and soul and inspiration for this team.
And she so often comes up with perfection. She expects it from herself. Didn't quite get it on that landing, but great job.
Another 9.85, so 4 9.85s in a row for the Florida Gators. Not bad to start off on the beam that way. One team that's been a great surprise in this Super 6 finals, as I mentioned, was the Auburn Tigers. And a lot of it has to do with this young lady right here. This is Caitlin Atkinson, the junior from Houston, Texas. She's 3rd in the all-around in the semifinals yesterday. She tied with Reagan Corville. She's a very complete, balanced, and very explosive, exciting gymnast to watch.
Partly because she just has so much fun in this sport. She really lets things loose, lets them go, goes for big gymnastics.
The MVP the last 2 years for the Auburn Tigers, and Jeff Graba has done a fantastic job at making this program a Tier 1 contender for sure.
This is a nice combination down to the low bar, hitting her handstands pretty nicely. Big release move toward the end of the bar routine, nice to see. Sets up a beautiful form on the dismount, but could not come up with the landing. She was just a little bit sluggish in the air.
Now remember, this is the first time of the year for most of these teams to compete in a back-to-back scenario. And Auburn, it's been 22 years since they've been in this situation.
And coming off the high they came off of in the semifinals, finding the energy to compete again here. Couldn't quite take it all the way to the end position.
I talked to their coaching staff, how do you prepare for this? And they said, well, usually we're sitting in the stands on day 2, so this is new for all of the team. Final beam for the Florida Gators will be Keitra Hunter. Score for Sloan, as I mentioned, was a 9.85. After her came Alex McMurtry, the freshman, had only a 9.65. So great pressure here on Keitra Hunter to hit the 5th solid routine.
Keitra has been in this anchor spot all year, and it has served her so well, given her great experience. It has made her so much tougher in pressure situations. Watch how she, oh, that's beautiful, floating in that layout, step out, and very aggressive on the landing. Something we didn't see from Keitra in her sophomore and junior years, just a little bit soft in these areas, and she is just so much tougher and so much more aggressive.
The all-around title was awarded during the qualification rounds here, and she won. Co-champion along with Sam Pesic with a 39.6. That's a 9.9 average.
Very well deserved. Look at that, high tuck double back. That's the routine Florida needs in this anchor spot, and she came up with it.
Okay, you can see some relief on the coaching staff and for the athletes that They hit beam in the first rotation. As you mentioned, that's a critical start for the Florida Gators. Elizabeth Bryce now on floor. The freshman from Coopersburg, Pennsylvania, did her club training at Parkettes, and she has been 5 years on the senior national team for USA Gymnastics. It's great to see her in collegiate competition.
And is she packed with power? You combine that power with good technique in the tumbling, and the result can be magical. Nice layout. Look at the landing. She carries over with that power even in her leaps and jumps.
Just a freshman, she's the Pac-12 Specialist of the Year this year. First team All-American on vault and on even bars.
Nice combination. Does the front somersault into the double back. With this being Stanford's weakest event, this is so important that they have this in the lineup now. Really adds to the strength here. Closes with a pike double back. Oh, didn't quite get the landing there. Over-rotated. Stayed in bounds, though. They will take a deduction for that large step back.
That'll be a good score for Stanford. They needed, actually. Their highest score was Sammy Shapiro, had a 9.825, but the scores prior were 9.525, 9.6, and 9.65, so needing a good score here on floor.
This was really the class of the routine, the double layout. She just glued her feet to the floor. Just overdid this ever so slightly, pulled her feet around a little too far, got her hips behind her feet, and had to take that step back into the lunge.
What an exciting freshman year for Elizabeth Bryce, 9.9. That's what they needed. They have one final performer, and that'll be Taylor Rice coming up. Taylor has been a consistent rock for this team all year long. She, as a junior from Las Vegas, is the daughter of Mike and Cassie Rice, both of them outstanding gymnasts at the University of Oklahoma. Now they have a club in Las Vegas.
And it's really interesting, Bart. We see both of her parents in her gymnastics.
Certainly. In her features, in her movements, everything.
This is quite the high energy floor routine, from the music selection and just the choreography. Until she had a lot of fun creating this. Beautiful height on pike double back. Now, you have to mention that some of the teams have more difficulty in the tumbling. They open with the big double layouts and full ends, and so Stanford has to be very, very clean on their passes.
We've talked about how consistent she's been. 43 of 47 routines this year she has hit perfectly.
Such a great event in college gymnastics. You can really see the personalities of these athletes come out. And they get so much support from the teammates on the side, who are often doing the dance right along with them. Good, strong finish. Tuck double back and a great landing.
A great exercise for the junior from Las Vegas, who set and beat her own career high in the all-around 4 times this year. That completes the competition in the first rotation. We'll update you on the scores when we come back to Fort Worth. And welcome back to the NCAA Gymnastics Championship, presented by Northwestern Mutual. It's the Super 16 finals here from Fort Worth, Texas. The Oklahoma Sooners are getting ready to start their competition. They'll open up on the floor exercise, and the Utah Utes will open up on the uneven bars, where they are spectacular. Let's take a look at the scores after the first of 6 rotations. The 4 teams that were competing: Alabama did a great job vaulting into first place. Florida, very respectable beam scores. Auburn on the bars, and Stanford on the floor. Amanda is with Florida's coach, Rhonda Fain.
Coach, very clean performances on beam. How would you assess their performances and routines today?
I'm incredibly pleased. You know, they came out and they competed aggressively, but it was nice and calm as well. And I feel like we were just really confident and not focused on anything that might be a distraction. And I love that, especially it being the first event and a challenging event at that. I thought they came out and did exactly what we were hoping for.
What are you going to be telling? You're now heading into the bye. What are you going to be talking to them about as you head to rotation 2?
Well, definitely to keep that momentum, keep that energy level. And I told them, again, after we finished beam, amazing job. Put it all out there, compete with your heart, and you're going to just be super happy. So that's what we want on floor. I want them just to perform their hearts out.
Thanks, Coach. Bart?
Well, it looks like Rhonda Fain has done what she had hoped. They hit beam and put pressure on the rest of the competitors. The Oklahoma Sooners will be led off by Chase Capps, a sophomore from Plano, Texas. She gets a few last-minute notes from Tom Haley, the assistant coach at Oklahoma. I mentioned she's from Plano, Texas. As it turns out, 15% of all the gymnasts competing here are actually from Texas. And it's great to have the championships here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Probably the hottest of the hotbeds of gymnastics right here in Texas.
It's almost inconceivable there's no Division I program in this state. There's a Division II program at Texas Women's University in Denton.
Oklahoma had a great rotation in the semis on the floor exercise. They're very strong here. Slight over rotation on the first pass. What I really like is the choreography and the complete package they are on this event.
KJ Kindler does all the choreography for the Oklahoma Sooners. Not every coach does that, do they? Sometimes they bring in an outside choreographer to work on the routine.
Yes, I can really see the through line. She brings out their personalities, tells a story with the choreography, and each one is very different.
To graduation last year, the Sooners lost Taylor Spears, Madison Mooring, Laura Albright. So Coach Kindler was a little concerned if the Sooners would have enough leadership, but boy, they have had an undefeated season, their best in history.
It's a very pretty pass, a very floaty double twist right into the back layout step out. Good complete performance there, nice job.
Chase Capps did her club training just down the road at Infinite Bounds Gymnastics. See if the Oklahoma Sooners can remain undefeated in their season. Back to the vault now for the Stanford Cardinal. Taylor Rice, by the way, had a 9.9 on floor. The junior from Las Vegas. You see her score in the semi, 9.675. She'll hope to do better there. So far, their scores are Pauline Hansett, 9.675, and Danielle McNair, 9.8.
This is definitely Stanford's weakest event. And because you can't just suddenly create power and explosiveness that isn't there, what they have to do is be clean and stick landings. And she does just that. That is as well as she can do that vault.
And back to the floor for the Oklahoma Sooners. Carol Levon, the sophomore from Des Moines, Iowa, set to go now. Chase Capps had a 9.8 in the leadoff role. Carol Levon is a sophomore from Des Moines, has a very solid season here in 2015. Oklahoma Sooners have been ranked #1 in the national ranking since the middle of January.
And her choreography is as unique as that first tumbling pass, taking advantage of the code of points where you can get some bonus points with combinations and connections. execution on the tumbling, exactly what she has to do to compete with the big tumbling passes, the double layouts and full-ins we see.
The Sooners are competing without the services of one of their most explosive gymnasts. That's Miley Kaneva. She tore her ACL earlier this year.
Choreography definitely makes me smile. It's very well done, very expressive, and right to the music. Perfect landing on the pike double back. Got some good difficulty there in the last pass. Very nice performance from start to finish. Good.
Good start for the Sooners, 2 solid routines. But let's go to the vault, because I'm always excited to see Elizabeth Price, the freshman who can fly sky high on this event.
And when you see this vault, you can think to yourself, wow, she must be able to do double twist and all kinds of difficulty. She really needs to zero in on the landing.
Oh,
that is huge. Such height and explosive block off the table.
it's nice to have the combination of power and great technique all in one.
I'd love to see her stylize this vault just a tad bit more, but you can't beat the height she gets because of the block. Notice she stays a little bit in that piked position going into the landing. If she stretches that out, that is perfect.
And the score for Elizabeth Price is a 9-9, their high score for Stanford on the vault. This is our first look at the Utah Utes, and boy, what a competition they had in qualifying to make it into the Super 6 final. Of course, Utah is competing without the services of one of their finest gymnasts, and Tori Wilson had a devastating injury in the Pac-12 championships. So they have done an amazing job without one of their stars who's actually sitting on the sideline. We'll talk more about that later.
Absolutely. This team almost didn't get out of regionals because of the emotion caused by that injury to Tori Wilson, and they have turned it around.
And this is an amazing event for them as well. Their high score so far is a 9-9 by Tiffany Lewis. That's her season high.
Yeah, you're right. The last half of this lineup is terrific. Couldn't quite hang on to the landing, but a super solid routine.
There is Tori Wilson on the sidelines, sitting in a wheelchair with Utah Ute flags attached to it. Oklahoma and Utah off to a great start. More from the second rotation when we come back. Action continues in the second rotation here for the Oklahoma Sooners on the floor. This is Brenna Dow, the freshman from Odessa, Missouri. She did her club training at Gage Gymnastics under the leadership of Al Fong, two-time member of the World Championship team for the U.S. And in fact, she joined the Oklahoma Sooners in November after contending for a spot on the World Championship team in 2014.
And what a gymnast they got in this recruit. She has added so much to their lineup on every event. Watch the power in this first pass. It's unique when she comes out of the double front. Right here. Oh no, missed that jump. The stag jump is just a little bit off.
She is certainly the most accomplished gymnast that KJ Kindler has recruited into the program based on her national team status.
There's another front landing pass. Oh, just really off on those front landings. She had a huge score in preliminaries of 9.925, hit every single pass. Now keep in mind, with all her experience, she is still a freshman. This is new to this athlete, first national championship.
And it's rare that these athletes have a chance to compete back-to-back 2 days under this kind of intense pressure.
Much better landing on the final tumbling run. Didn't quite have the power and the height that we saw in preliminaries. Just slightly off. That's a little bit of a missed opportunity for Oklahoma, unfortunately.
Because normally that's a big score, as you mentioned, a 9-9 for sure.
She just missed the timing of the jump. That's a really tricky pass because you don't want to bound into the leap. You have to control that landing. And then here she just completely overdid it. Had to swing her arms, and of course a big deduction for the step and another 10th for out of bounds.
After Kara Levan's 9.9, unfortunately only a 9.675 for Brenna Dahl for the Sooners. Corey Lothrop now set to go on the bars. This senior who is a 6-time All-American for Utah. 3-year team co-captain.
And this last half of the lineup is just jam-packed with talent and good consistency.
Cassandra Lopez before her had a 9.9.
Losing just a little bit of toe point. That's being picky. But at this type of competition, every little thing is going to count. Nice handstand. Sets up the dismount really well. Good double layout.
Here's a young lady that missed most of 2013 with an Achilles tendon tear. And the Utah Utes are building some momentum here in the first rotation for them on the uneven bars. And that brings up Georgia Dabritz, their best bar worker. And boy, she gave us a thrill in the qualifying round.
Not only was she specialist of the year because of this event, she should get cool gymnast of the year. Neat skill there, opening up this bar routine. She does 2 release moves in the routine, as consistent as can be, and she does not wear hand grips. That just adds to her coolness. Anybody who does this event finds that incredible.
Of course, the Utah crowd was hoping for a 10, and that's what the judges delivered. So Georgia Dabritz, her 6th career perfect 10 on the uneven bars, and she's set to go at their final performer on this event here at the NCAA Championships.
And I can't remark sufficiently how consistent this gymnast is on this event. I've seen video of her in workouts, and time again, she is perfect. It's unbelievable. And 2 release moves really makes this routine so special. I mean, that is almost identical to the routine we saw in the semis.
We're getting used to seeing that from Georgia Dabritz. You think the judges would come up with another 10 today?
For no grips, Dabritz, maybe so. Oh my gosh, she just attacked this routine with a vengeance. How cool is this? Beautiful last handstand to set up. Perfect shape in the air and just drops it in.
Tom Farden, the assistant coach, coaches them on bars, and guess what? It's another 10. Unbelievable, 2 10s in a row at the NCAA Championships for senior Georgia Dabritz. Utah on a roll. What a start here at the NCAA Super 6 Finals. Coverage of the NCAA Championships continues with the NCAA Men's Lacrosse Selection Show on May 3rd at 9 p.m. Eastern on ESPNU. For more information on the NCAA Men's Lacrosse Championship, log on to ncaa.com, the official online home for all 89 NCAA championships. Here are the standings after 2 rotations. Keep in mind, Stanford and Auburn have done 2 events. Of the 4 teams that have only done 1, Utah is the leader among them. And they're doing it today without the leadership of one of their best gymnasts, Tori Wilson, as we mentioned, had a devastating injury at the Pac-12 Championships about a month ago. She started the meet with a perfect 10 on the vault. But then when she went to the floor, on the takeoff of her tumbling run, she tore her right Achilles tendon. And then when she landed, she broke a bone in her left foot. She's been an inspiration for this team ever since. She's with Amanda.
Thanks, Faria. She is so inspiring. But Tori, 2 back-to-back 10s for your teammate, Georgia Dabritz. What were your overall thoughts on her performance?
It's so incredible and amazing. I mean, especially at a national championship, it means a lot. And if anyone's going to do it, it's Georgia.
When you've had your fair share of hardships, and I watched you, you are just so inspiring for this team, really yelling for them. How do you feel that your role has been with this team as it's progressed throughout the season?
Well, especially now, I love to be here and be able to cheer them on. And they've talked about, you know, finishing the season for me, but I really want them to finish it for themselves because they can do it and be amazing.
Thank you so much, Tori.
Well, I love her attitude, and it's great that she was able to make the trip here tonight. And a lot of Florida fans came here as well. They're hoping for a possible three-peat. Of course, they shared the title last year with the Oklahoma Sooners. They'll start off on floor exercise with sophomore Claire Boyce, who did her club training at Texas Dreams just on the road from here.
And I'm sure the fans are sitting on the edge of their seats. They have dealt with some adversity with injuries. Claire Boyce has been dealing with a hip injury throughout the season. And this routine is so important for Florida. She simply must get them off to a good start. They have Beam behind them. Did an excellent job putting some pressure on the other teams as they go to the beam. Let's see if she can get this first pass. Double twist, a tiny little stumble on the landing. Nothing major. Much better on the middle tumbling run.
She had a major elbow surgery in the off season. Coach Rhonda Fain, says she's really tough mentally.
Best part of her routine really is the dance. She can hit this landing. She's got 2 of the 3 landings really well done. 1.5 twist. Finished very, very strong. Only deduction in that routine, that first tumbling pass, gave up a little on the landing.
Amanda Jeter will be up for the Crimson Tide. We noticed they had a great start on the vault. Let's see what they can do on the bars. Jeter is a sophomore, did her club training at Cincinnati Gymnastics under the leadership of Mary Lee Tracy.
And Alabama was a little loose on this event in qualifying. Their form just wasn't quite there, and landings were a little bit off. They need to improve on that.
Their leadoff performer, Keely McNear, had a 9.8.
So far, she's hitting this routine pretty well. Handstands were not perfect up on top, but close enough for no deduction. Nice job. The best part of the routine was that double front dismount and the landing.
And she gets high 10s from Brian Roshilla, the associate head coach. Nicely done. Georgia Dabritz, speaking of 10s, she had a 10 on the first rotation here on the bars, but this will be a tense moment on the beam because she fell in the qualifier, and that rarely happens.
Absolutely, and Megan Marsden, the coach, understood exactly what she was feeling. She'd been in that position before. Here's the series, back handspring, layout, step out, well done. When you are such a leader on your team and in team competition, she's so vocal. Sometimes you focus, oh, little deduction there on that balance check. You're so focused on getting your team ready that sometimes you don't focus on yourself enough. So she had the miscue, coming back so strong here.
She's a very vocal leader for the Utes. By the way, their leadoff performer, 9'7", Maddie Stover.
If she can finish strong here. Excellent job, and this is when you are reminded it is more than just winning or going for a win in a national championship. To conquer that, come back from the fall, and do it for your team, that is just phenomenal.
You go from the senior at Utah to the freshman at Oklahoma, Allie Jackson. You see her score in the semifinal was a 9.95. And Oklahoma was not as strong as they needed to be in floor exercise in that first rotation. They're going to have to pick it up here.
Oh, through the 1.5 twist, more difficulty, but could not get the stuck landing. They were so hot in semifinals on this event, landing after landing. Not quite here. Very explosive and dynamic, but the judges are going to take a 10th there on that landing.
Charity Jones led them off with a 9.9. Brenna Dowell had a 9.9. As we go back to the floor exercise, Bridget Sloan now. Now this will be interesting because she had the perfect 10 on her vault in the first meet of the year, and then it was on floor exercise where she crunched her ankle, and it's really limited her this season. In fact, she doesn't quite do the same difficulty she did last year because she's had to modify her floor exercise routine to get a good score.
And most important, she hasn't had the reps that you need to really get consistent on this event. So she missed time this first tumbling run, missed it completely in semis.
The junior is a 16-time All-American.
This is where she had the trouble. It's a double twist, and she came out of it early. Perfect here, well done.
We talked with her earlier, and she said this year has been so difficult, but she discovered that she has a lot more fight in herself than she even thought.
She showed it throughout the semifinals, and her reaction to the mistake was so critical to this team. Beautiful on the middle tumbling run, because when she wasn't upset and flustered and just moved on, rallied the team again, they joined her.
What a performer she is. She's an Olympic medalist. She's a world all-around champion. She's an NCAA all-around champion. Oh!
And just tough as nails. My goodness gracious. What a performance she came up with. And to come back from the problem in the semis and just correct it instantly right here, double twist. And then she just settled into such a nice performance throughout, stayed really, really strong mentally to fight for perfect landings.
And that results in a season-high 9.95 for Bridget Sloan and the Florida Gators. So Florida continuing to do well here in the third rotation in Fort Worth.
I found a way to relieve my constant.
Kathy, did you get over there and try to ride the bull?
Not for me.
Okay, while we were covering Bridget Sloan on the floor exercise, Haley Skaman from Oklahoma was vaulting. Let's take a look at it.
She has such a beautiful vault in terms of form. Oh, so nicely done.
And Lou Ball, the assistant coach and husband of KJ Kindler, he liked it. As did the Sooner fans. And her score was a 9.95. And Oklahoma needs that after a uncharacteristic start on floor exercise. Back to Alabama on the bars, Caitlin Clark. You see her score in the NCAA semifinal. The senior from California is the 2014 SEC bars champion.
And unfortunately, right before Caitlin, Lauren Beers was just a little off her game. Did not see the typical strong routine that she can come up with sometimes.
So far, only 1.99 for the Crimson Tide there. That's Katie Bailey in the middle of the lineup.
Caitlin has changed her bar routine a couple times this season and has settled on this version. Best combination in her routine was that from the high bar down to the low bar. See if she can hit the dismount. Not a bad routine. Could not quite get the perfect stick on the landing, so there were a couple little deductions in the routine. Just ever so slightly off for the whole team on this event. Gave up a little bit.
Alabama's done with the third rotation, and we go to the floor exercise once again. This is Keitra Hunter for Florida. She did her club training at Hills Gymnastics in Maryland, and last year, 4 times she scored perfect 10s on floor. Look at the scores there. After Claire Boyce's 9-8, the next 3 scores 9-9 or better. The Gators doing a great job here.
It was great to see Kirsten Wang in that second spot really improve on her routine. Come up with a 9-9. This can be a gigantic routine and score for Florida if she hits. Effortless in that double layout.
Talk about her amazing career. She won the NCAA all-around title as a freshman, and she did it again as a senior. And she has been a rock for this team all season long. They've been waiting for Bridget Sloan to get back in her best shape after her injury.
This is one of my favorite passes. It's just such a nice, easy on the eyes pass. Floats every skill. This is the first year since her freshman year she has been injury-free. Her body feels great. She was able to just get in her top-notch condition, and it shows. Gorgeous open tuck double back. Again with ease. Beautiful.
Oh, that'll be a huge score without question. Kennedy Baker before her had the 9.925.
Just gigantic improvement on this event. All the way around, and the incredible skill, talent, and ability to perform all came together for Keitra Hunter.
And her score is in 9.975. Outstanding. That means 2 of the judges gave her perfect 10s. And their final floor performer, and Bridget Caquato has been in this situation many times. The junior from Naperville, Illinois, of course, her older sister, Mako Caquato, a recent graduate. She's here in the stands cheering on the Gators today.
And a lot of pressure on Bridget, often in this spot, going up last. She has some high scores leading up to her, so a little bit less pressure, but she really tries to focus on cleaning up her footwork and, of course, getting the landings on these tumbling runs.
She doesn't have the same high degree of difficulty as Keitra Hunter, so she'll have to be solid.
Well, it's just interesting in strategy and in terms of the lineup. Double twist, a punch front. That's the best I've ever seen her do that pass, by the way.
You notice that 4-inch mat is in there. They're allowed to use a supplemental mat just to make the landing a little bit softer.
Cool, you could see her sister in the background cheering her on. Slight little arm correction in the air. Always has some level of difficulty really trying to square up that jump out of that tumbling pass.
Coach Rhonda Fain has said they haven't quite had their perfect meet yet this year. They've been good in bits and pieces, but so far, if she could nail this routine, Florida would have 2 outstanding events complete already in this Super 6 final.
Strong finish with a pike double back. This is as well as she has done this floor routine. Just minor little deductions throughout, a little bit of footwork, a little bit of posture, and good job on her landings, though.
Florida keeps the pressure on. Standings after the 3rd rotation when we come back.
Are you stuck with a low
Welcome back to the NCAA Women's Gymnastics Championship. After 3 rotation, here are the scores. Florida did take the lead after that impressive work on the floor. Utah, Alabama, Oklahoma, Stanford, and Auburn, the 6 best teams in the country. Now, Oklahoma in 4th currently is just 0.3 of a point out of the lead. And Amanda is with their coach, KJ Kindler.
Coach, very controlled landings on vault. How pleased were you with the scores, especially Haley finishing with the 9.95?
Well, I thought vault was great for us. A little bit off point from yesterday, but I still thought we had some really great landings, so we're pretty happy with it.
And overall thoughts in general now that you're heading on to the 3rd rotation?
Yeah, I think we had a little slow start on floor. We made a couple out of bounds mistakes, and we're going to have to fight back. We're going to have to fight hard.
2 back-to-back leg events now. How does that, or how would you say that that can re-energize a team?
Well, you know, we're going to bars, then to beams, so I think these are actually the events that take the most focus and are very intricate. So they're going to have to be very calm and very composed.
Thanks, Coach.
So Coach Kindler's Sooners hope to regain their footing in the next rotation, and Florida continues to roll. Here we go with Bridget Caquato. She's their leadoff performer on the vault after her floor exercise routine. She was their anchor performer there.
And she is stepping in for Rachel Spicer, who led off in the semis on this event. So this is a change in their lineup. She just ran out of gas in the middle of the vault. Keep in mind, she just finished the floor routine. Perhaps that had something to do with that, but just didn't quite have the oomph behind the vault.
Until this moment, it's been a perfect day for the Florida Gators.
Absolutely. She's in nice, tight form, but just not enough gas.
Remember, 6 athletes go. The top 5 scores will count towards their team total. So the next 5 vaulters will be crucial if Florida hopes to retain the lead. Back over to the floor now. Megan Walker, the senior from Brackney, Pennsylvania. The Auburn Tigers really thrilled to qualify into the Super 6 finals.
Bart, they had to do some shuffling of the lineup. Apparently, Caitlin Atkinson's ankle just really flaring up, so they have changed their lineup and taken Caitlin out. This is one of their loveliest floor routines. This has to have been a challenge for Auburn to manage the excitement and the adrenaline drain that they had to have experienced after the semifinals. I can't even imagine the energy expenditure. Nice middle run. Megan doesn't have the big, difficult tumbling passes. She has very, very pretty dance.
Talk about how tough the competition is in the SEC. The regular season record for Auburn was a 14-9, but they were 3-4 in the SEC, had a losing record, and yet they're still one of the top 6 teams in the country.
I love that ending. That's the best part of the routine. Boy, she left everything out on the floor. That's all you can ask of any athlete in this situation.
You see Bridget Sloan on the sidelines. While that floor routine was going, Bridget Sloan vaulted. Let's take a look.
She brings to this event just exquisite form and technique, really flares this vault and stylizes it. She opened the season with a 10. Beautiful vault in the air. Did not quite get the perfect landing that she wanted, but it was so close and just picture perfect in the air. Straight body throughout.
Florida has had 3 very strong vaulters after Caquato's low 9.325. 9.9 for Sloan, following up after Kennedy Baker's 9.9 as well. And that brings up Keitra Hunter.
Keitra was a little off point on this event in the semis. Hit a very difficult 1.5 twist, but lost the landing.
Ranked second in the country here.
Much better. That's the best vault that I've really seen her do all season in terms of the entirety of the vault. Had good dynamics, nice explosive push off the table, and the best landing so far.
And the score for the senior, a 9.925. Now to the freshman, an anchor performer for the Gators here on the vault, Alex McMurtry.
Wow, look at the beauty of that vault.
Taking a trip in the next 12 months, airlines are under tremendous pressure.
Welcome back to Fort Worth. Rotation 4 continues at the Super 6 finals. Samantha Shapiro, hard to believe she's a senior, the young lady from Los Angeles, California. 3-time member of the senior elite national team for the U.S. She's one of 5 seniors on the team.
And this is where we see them shine. Their extraordinary form and execution should earn them way more than brownie points with the judges. Look at that. Keeps the toe point throughout the entire release move. Legs glued together. Beautiful amplitude on that pack salto down to the low bar. I mean, this is truly awe-inspiring form and technique. Crazy. Double layout. Oh, just hung it up a little bit in the air and had to pike down, but wow, I would cry too. That was unbelievable. It was so beautiful.
She gets congratulations from Chris Schwercheck, the associate head coach there at Stanford. Those are happy tears for a young lady who knows her career as a gymnast is coming to a close right here in Fort Worth. What a way to finish.
I just cannot say enough about how exquisite that form is.
Okay, and she's back up on the podium to help the rest of her teammates get ready. That brings up Elizabeth Price. How nice is that? Scores on the bar so far for Nicolette McNair had a 9.9, Taylor Rice a 9.875, Christina Vakulik a 9.9, and Sammy Shapiro comes in with a 9.9. So as expected, Stanford just spectacular on this event in every way.
And this is a different type of bar routine coming up. It's dynamic, it's powerful. She brings a strength to the uneven bars, whereas the others might show the finesse throughout her routine. She adds this other element.
Really exciting to see things come together for the Stanford Cardinal here at the end of the season. They had illnesses and injuries that really kept them from being at their best for the regular season. But boy, are they amazing here today.
One of the other elements that makes a routine special is amplitude, and she's got it. Nice flight on that release move, and much more difficult with the legs together on that reverse hack. Huge, nice swing. Couldn't quite get the landing. I think she missed the release point going into that double layout, slung it out a little bit. Routine was extraordinary though.
Price is the Pac-12 Specialist of the Year.
Very difficult element, especially to keep form, staying in that pike position.
And connect from the high bar to the low bar immediately. 5 great routines for the Stanford Cardinal so far, and a 9.925 for Elizabeth Price. But wait, folks, Ivana Hong's coming up, and she can even be better.
Just when you think there's no way to be better, she puts everything together.
Olympic alternate. She sat out 2014 with her second major knee injury, so it's good to see her competing on this apparatus.
Impeccable form, perfect distance away from the bar on that release move. Just gorgeous lines. Final three performers on this event are just out of this world. And look at that. There's your perfect landing, just to top everything off. Boy, they made that look easy. Just enjoy the perfection here. So pretty.
That's the polish and technique of an elite gymnast, no question about it. And Stanford ends up with a season-high 49.575 on the bars. Wow, what a rotation for the Stanford Cardinal. Let's go back to the beam now. Alabama's there, and Caitlin Clark is set to go. Their high score was a 9.95. They're trying to replace a low score. Kayla Williams, unfortunately, who's normally a rock, got only a 9.25.
But right after her, Asia Sims came roaring back with a 9.95 after having her troubles in the semis. It's just what it's all about. I love that Caitlin Clark does that little motion with her hand around her face. I don't know exactly what it means, but it's definitely a cue for her.
They are their scores.
It's interesting because she does involve her facial expression throughout this routine. It's nice to see her relax, smile. It is part of her mental choreography on this event. Nice angle to see, just shoulders, hips, square in line with the beam, and use that one arm, change the position on the landing to just not show at all the minute little correction she made in the air. Oh, unfortunate break right there. Oh, and the sheep jump. She just rushed the landing ever so slightly and overcorrected. Wow.
These championships, of course, every 10th of a point, every 100th of a point is going to matter.
You know, Alabama has definitely improved. They were really rattled on this event during the semifinals. We've seen much better so far. This is not going to quite be the big score they had hoped for at the end of the routine. Fought hard for the landing, slightly off center, and boy, what a relief when that all just comes pouring out. She handled it quite well.
Florida did what they wanted to do in the first rotation by hitting beam and putting the pressure on the rest of the teams.
This is where she just got a tiny bit ahead of herself. You really have to stay in the moment. That shoulder dropped on the landing and it pulled her off to the left. She managed to save it, but it will be a fairly sizable deduction there. Fought very hard on this dismount to get a stick.
How many times have we seen Alabama needing pressure routines on the beam? 6 times. They've won the NCAA team championship. That concludes rotation number 4. Don't go away. And the scores are in after the 4th rotation. Florida, the top of the teams that have done 3 events. Take a look at Utah and Oklahoma. They've only done 2 events each. And among them, Utah is ahead of Oklahoma. Utah goes to the floor now with sophomore Bailey Rowe from Federal Way, Washington. She started her career on the beam for Utah, but has worked her way into several times competing in the lineup as an all-arounder.
Now the good news for Utah, they could pick up a couple of tenths more than they got in the semifinals, improving on some of the landings. Utah
certainly in the mix here, peaking at the end of the season. They This young lady hit 38 of 40 routines this year. She's been very consistent.
That's what college gymnastics is all about. When you reach that level of consistency and can be counted on, it's so critical to team success. Now, this particular routine doesn't have the highest level of difficulty. We'll see more of that in the later routines, but she's doing her job. Hit all the passes, wore herself out.
Very clever.
Nice job.
Utah has won the national championship 10 times, 9 in the NCAA and once in the AIAW before the NCAA offered women's gymnastics. Oklahoma has won it only once, and that was last year when they shared the championship with Florida. Keely Kmiecek was a part of that team. She's a junior now, and she is set for Oklahoma on the bars.
And they scored a huge 49.5, which is an average of 9.9 on this event in the semis. So, like Stanford, they shine on this event. Huge amplitude on her release move. Beautiful handstand work so far.
Oklahoma just behind Utah in the team standings coming into this rotation.
Just the dismount left here. Half in, half out. Oh, could not quite keep those feet on the mat. She had to take the step forward into her presentation to the judge.
And the judges are going to have to take off. Unfortunately, she's trying to sell it all she can, but if you're not coming to a complete finish before you turn to the judges.
You have to get the hands up, the arms up first to show that position.
Their leadoff was 9.85, Rebecca Clark. So the score now in for Keely Kmiecek at 9.875, which will bring up Erica Brewer. She is a senior and out of Louisville, Kentucky.
What a collegiate career she has had.
Former All-American on this event.
Would have liked to see a little bit more rotation on that release move, but very nice execution otherwise. Beautiful handstand, really being aggressive, going after every single element to its fullest. Double layout, I thought she'd pulled in a little too much, but maintained that laid out position throughout. See how close to perfect the landing was. Pike down just ever so slightly and took a little slide back, so they'll take a little deduction there.
Oklahoma's not quite as sharp as they were yesterday in the qualifying round. Just missing those landings a little bit, and they're all going to be critical as we go back to floor. For Kari Lee, the freshman for Utah.
We keep talking about landings. It's just the most obvious deduction that just simply has to be taken.
You're right, there's a lot of deductions that are qualitative, but in terms of stuck landings, that's the most obvious one for the fans and the judges. There's no question about it. You have to take the deduction if they do not stick.
Certainly doesn't mean it's the only thing that matters. Very nice triple twist. I love that skill. We only see a couple in this championship, and they're both from this team of Utah.
I really like what we're seeing from Utah. You know, all year long we've been covering the SEC with the SEC ESPN network, so we don't get a chance to see too much from Utah, but the quality of their gymnastics is superb.
Could have seen a little bit more amplitude on that tumbling pass, but she controlled the landing pretty well. Good flexibility on those leaps. That is another element the judges are looking for.
Update on the scores there. Bailey Rowe had a 9.85, Tiffany Lewis a 9.875. Kari Lee now, she's the all Pac-12 on the floor exercise.
This routine is so playful with the facial expression. Very nice height. A little bit far back on that landing when she stepped into the lunge. They're allowed to go into the lunge position after controlling the landing on 2 feet, but if it's too large a step, they will take a little deduction. I love the spunk in this routine. Gorgeous triple twist here. Legs crossed just a little bit.
And the freshman doing her part to help the Utah Utes try to win this championship. They're in the 5th rotation. Welcome back to Fort Worth. Let's take a look at the Capital One Cup standings update as teams compete for a combined $400,000 scholarship donation from Capital One. The 5th rotation continues here at the Super 6 finals, and that brings us to Stanford on the beam. Kristina Vakulik now. She's the 4th person in their lineup. Update the scores. Becky Wing had a season-high 9.9 to start them off. And then Nicolette McNair had a 9.25. Taylor Rice a 9.875.
What a leadoff performer, Becky Wing. How fortunate Stanford is. They are just stunning on this event. A little bit of pressure. They'd like to drop that 9.25. This is the kind of team that you can count on to do that. Very well prepared. I love that skill. She did it effortlessly. Full twisting backhand swing down.
I think it's so interesting that there's 5 seniors on this team. 4 of them competed in the Super 6 final the last time Stanford made it back in 2012. But this young lady missed that year because she took a redshirt year so she could compete for Canada in the 2012 Olympics in London.
Here comes her series. Lines up with the balance beam and very aggressive on that landing.
Three-time All-American in 2014, studies human biology, intends to go to med school when she's done with her gymnastics career.
She has done a fantastic job here. Finishes strong with a double twist. Very, very clean routine. Nicely done.
We'll go back to the bars for the Oklahoma Sooners. That brings up Brenna Dowell, the young freshman. But take a look at the scores coming into her performance. A little added pressure here because Haley Skaman just fell on her release move, scored only a 9.0. So they have not yet hit 9.9 with any of their athletes. A lot of pressure here on Dowell.
On the anchor, and that's the type of gymnast you put in this spot. She's got the routine to score huge. Played a little bit safe on that, was a little closer to the bar than I typically see her. She is making certain she hits this routine.
See the coach Tom Haley step in there. The coaches are allowed to step in on those release moves just for safety.
Very, very nice form. And the hardest dismount in the competition. An absolutely spectacular full twisting double back in laid out position. Just could not quite get the stick on the landing.
A missed opportunity for the Oklahoma Sooners there. Back to the floor now for Utah. Georgia Dabritz, you saw that semifinal score 9.925. Look at their scores, all in the 9.8 range, and 2 big routines to cap off this effort for them in the team competition.
This is a huge opportunity for them. She scored a 9.925 in the preliminaries, so the potential is there. She has terrific tumbling passes in this routine. Opens with a pike full in, good height. A little bit of a long step back into that lunge position. They might take a little there.
Utah fighting to stay ahead of the Oklahoma Sooners, who have left the door open with a couple of botched landings and missed opportunities.
And they were nothing major, but in a competition this tight, those little things add up, and so many of the coaches had said it's going to come down to that.
Of course, last year's national championship came down to the first tie in NCAA history between Oklahoma and Florida. 198-175 was the score.
Very nice triple twist. She didn't quite get a perfect landing, but it was a terrific triple twist to end the routine. Very, very strong routine. In terms of the tumbling, they will probably have to take those minor deductions, though.
Oh, I'm looking forward to this. I know you are too, Kathy. Ivana Hong, of course, she has had much acclaim as an elite gymnast, a member of the senior national team. We've seen how amazing she is on the uneven bars. How about balance beam?
This is just pure artistry. It's a shame that gymnastics has to be judged in moments like this. I'd like to just sit back and admire her artistry.
That wouldn't be much of a sport, though.
No, not at all. We like to see these athletes perform under pressure.
She's their final performer. Look at this. They have 2 9-9s for Becky Wing and Christina Vikulik, and Elizabeth Price as well. 3 9-9s.
Love this combination. Anodi right into the back handspring. You would never know. It's a difficult combination.
This will be their final performance of these championships because they're done.
Watch this pass, Bart. Back handspring, layout, step out. She is so light on her feet.
In this rotation, Stanford and Auburn will complete their efforts. We'll know the score to beat when they're done with this routine.
She shows such beautiful footwork going up on toe. Somewhat of a lost art, really, in gymnastics, and particularly on this event. And nice to see her bring that back. Beautiful toe point. Nice line. She ends with a piked gainer off the end. It is not the hardest dismount, but she's had a ACL injury, so she does not take any chances on the dismount.
Expect a big score there and another record-setting performance perhaps for Stanford on the beam. We go back to the floor now. Becky Tutka, she's following up Georgia Dabritz, who had a 9-9.
Dynamic opening, full in. Utah performs a lot of full ins in their floor rotation. You add those 2 triple twists we saw, they have nice difficulty.
This 4-time All-American made the NCAA event finals on floor last year.
Talk about the energy necessary for this long weekend of competition, and they add to it. They're all doing the routine on the sidelines with each other.
You see the score in the background came up for Ivana Hong, a 9.975. So to follow up with their season high on the bars, Stanford has a season high on the beam. A lot of pressure here on Utah and Tutka.
All-important landing here. Finishes very strong, very controlled on that landing in the tuck double back. Nice work.
Utah doing what they have to do to keep this close. And rotation 5 comes to a finish. One rotation left to pick a champion here in 2015. Welcome back to the 2015 NCAA Women's Gymnastics Championship presented by Northwestern Mutual. Coverage of the NCAA Championships continues with the NCAA Men's Lacrosse Selection Show on May 3rd at 9 p.m. Eastern on ESPNU. For more information on the NCAA Men's Lacrosse Championship, log on to ncaa.com, the official online home for all 89 NCAA championships. We are set now for the final rotation. Here are the scores after 5. Stanford and Auburn have completed their efforts. Stanford is essentially the leader in the clubhouse with a 197-2-5. Florida, Utah, Oklahoma, and Alabama in their final performances. Florida the leader over Utah by 15 100ths of a point. Oklahoma will move to the beam. Look at this. Utah is number 1 in the country on the vault. That's where they'll be. Florida is tied for first on the bars. That's where they'll be. And the Sooners are the best team in the country on the beam. Alabama will be on the floor where they're ranked 4th. It all comes down to this, and as we said at the top of the show, Florida hit beam at the start of the competition. Oklahoma needs to be spectacular here on the beam if they're going to get back in this game after some uncharacteristic stumbles on their landings. Keely Kamichek.
Oklahoma does not want to repeat how they performed very uncharacteristically in the semifinals on this event. They had to shift into safety mode and even took out a couple of elements in the last few beam performances to secure their spot in these finals, but they can be fantastic on this event.
It's interesting that Oklahoma had only 1 fall on beam the entire year, never counted a fall until the qualification round here.
They were definitely in an uncharted territory for them in dealing with that, and quite frankly, they handled it pretty well. But they want to be in aggressive mode here. Aggressive, calm, all the way through the routine. Very, very nicely done.
And quickly to the vault for Utah. Freshman Tiffany Lewis up to go now.
Very nice vault by the freshman under a lot of pressure. Keep in mind, they are absent Tori Wilson on this event. Tori, of course, scored a perfect 10 before going down with the injury at the Pac-12s.
The leadoff performer for Utah there, Corey Lothrop, had a 9.75. To the bars now. Bianca Dancos Giambattisto, the junior from Montreal, Quebec, competed for the Canadian national team. She's one of 6 gymnasts on the team at Florida who have competed for their respective national teams.
Now in this nail-biting final rotation, both Utah and Florida were outstanding on their respective events in the semis. If they can repeat that, they are going to be so tight score-wise.
Kennedy Baker led them off with a 9.85. That's her season high. Good start for the Gators.
Very good so far, hitting all the positions, holding form, nice handstand to set up the Giants into the dismount. Stretch, double layout, a hop back. They will take a deduction on that landing. She had the shape in the air and then just suddenly piked way too much to get a stick.
Back to the vault for Utah. Samantha Partika had a 9.85. We saw Tiffany Lewis. Hers resulted in a 9.875. So Kari Lee, the freshman, set to go. And the last 3 in this lineup, even without Tori Wilson, are pretty darn spectacular. This is a great event.
And it's going to take spectacular. So far, we haven't seen a big vault yet to get into that 9-9 area in the scoring.
Once again, Utah ranked number 1 in the country on this event, and here they are in the final rotation needing some big scores. Trailing Florida by 15 100ths.
Very, very good. That's the best landing so far for Utah. She balanced that with a very strong vault, good dynamics.
Back to the bars quickly now. This is Keitra Hunter. She's been in this pressure situation before.
She has a huge release move right here. Beautiful amplitude.
First 2 performers for Florida on the bars, Baker and Dancos Giambattisto, both 9.85s.
Oh, she took that dismount way too far out. just missed the release point. We've seen her have a little trouble with that dismount the last 2 competitions.
Now Kyla Delaney on vault. Kari Lee before her, a 9.925. Utah doing what they need to do.
Good landing on that vault, a little bit piked in the middle of the vault in that stretched position. She should have maintained that stretch a little bit longer, and her legs were slightly staggered on the landing. Right there, she's just a little bit piked. One foot is slightly in front, but boy, she did not move those feet. What fight there.
And the score for Delaney, a 9.925 as well for the 3-time All-American.
They are definitely gaining a little ground, coming up with the landings they need now.
Georgia Dabritz will be the final vaulter for Utah. They will set the score to beat. Tori Wilson there in the wheelchair on the sidelines cheering on her teammates. Here she goes.
A terrific vault. It looks like she might have been slightly off center and a little close to the table, but look at the landing, and that might overshadow the other parts of the vault.
Quickly back to the bars. Bridget Caquado now. The score for Keitra Hunter, a 9.825.
So far, swinging very, very well. She's hit all the major elements. Let's see if she can get the landing on the dismount, hop back.
And another missed landing.
It's far from perfect. They're giving away valuable tenths of a point. They had some to lose, but not too much.
And one final look at Georgia Dabritz. It's 9.975 for this vault.
Talk about rising to the occasion. How exciting is that?
The 13-time All-American and the co-captains right there, Dabritz and Tori Wilson. They've done all that they can do. What an emotional meet with Wilson on the sidelines. Many of these young ladies, seniors like Georgia Dabritz, they have set a mark that is going to be tough for Florida. Florida will have to be near perfect in the last 2 routines. First up for the Gators of the final 2 is Bridget Sloan. And I tell you, this is the person I'd like to have in this spot. You see what she scored in the semifinals. We've seen her score a perfect 10 this year as well.
My gosh, she has a steel trap of a mind. She can focus and zero in on striving for utter perfection on this event. This fabulous technique. Look how straight her body line is, her handstands. That is just extraordinary and nearly unparalleled here in the competition. Very few people have that straight body line. Let's see if she can get the landing to double layout. Phenomenal, absolutely, dare I say it, perfect. That was so close to absolute
straight
perfection.
up and down on that double layout, no pike whatsoever.
That was crazy good.
What a meet going back and forth. Utah's done now. 197.80 is a terrific score for the Utes. So the stage is set. We wait for Bridget's score. There's Jeff Sloan, her father. They're all trying to do the math on the sidelines. The score is a 9.95 for Sloan. And that puts all the pressure on this young lady, the freshman, Alex McMurtry. We've done the math. Anything more than a 9.9 will win it for the Florida Gators.
Bart, she has a clean routine. It is cleverly constructed because it's somewhat underpowered in terms of big skills. But it's scored from a 10. Let's see if she can get the dismount. Full twisting double back and nails the landing. Oh my gosh, and from the freshman.
What pressure in the final rotation, the final event. Will it be enough for the Florida Gators? They'll wait on the sidelines. Utah, they've done all they can do, and what an incredible meet they had. Talking to her gymnast, of course, if they could do it, they would be three-peat champions, and the score is in. It's a 9-9-5 for Alex McMurtry. Florida will win their third consecutive NCAA team title, and by 5/100ths of a point, Utah will finish second. So in 2013, Florida won. In 2014, they shared the title with Oklahoma, and this year they three-peat as NCAA team champions. Utah will finish second, Oklahoma third. When we come back from the break, we'll talk to the winners. Welcome back to Fort Worth, and there it is, folks, the third national trophy in a row for the Florida Gators. They did what they needed to do. They started on beams solidly and finished strong on the uneven bars. It's great to be a Florida Gator today. Let's take a look at the final numbers in this championship. 197.85 by 5/100ths of a point. Florida over Utah. Oklahoma third, Alabama fourth. Stanford and Auburn round out the top 6 teams in 2015.
Coach, third national title in a row, and you spoke about how this team was really battle-tested this season. As a coach, what is it like for you to see your team get the win?
You know what? It was just an incredible finish to the season that really gave us so much experience, and it gave everyone so much experience because of the adversity that we dealt with all season long. And tonight they were just a huge, huge group of fighters, and we weren't perfect, and I love that they never gave up for 1 second, and it was competing with complete heart tonight.
Well, and speaking of adversity, Bridget, you went through adversity beginning of this season. I know you said you wanted to be back for this moment. How much heart does this team have, and how much do you feel that you've been a part of this group?
No, I mean, this team is absolutely incredible. Obviously my injury at the beginning of the season, not how I wanted to start things, but I had no doubt. I mean, this is an incredible group of girls that we literally fought for every single landing, for every single 10th here and there, because look at it, it comes down to those baby 10ths. And it was an incredible journey for my junior year. Obviously, three-peating has been one of the best things that has ever happened to me. And